of the Ricks, Kreisman, came out on top. The mayor of St. Pete will get to stay in office. After months of campaigning and a tight primary, Rick Kreisman beat former Mayor Rick Baker 52 to 48%. Tonight on Nightside, team coverage from both campaigns, plus a look at how Kreisman's win will affect the rest of the Bay Area.
But first tonight, a major shock to our community after Major League Baseball star Roy Halladay was killed in a plane crash. He was the only one on board a small plane that went down in the Gulf of Mexico today near Holiday. The former Phillies pitcher was a big part of the Pasco County community. You could see how much he meant to the sheriff and his deputies.
He was a part of our sheriff's office. His kids went to school with some of our kids. He was there whenever we needed him. He was probably one of the most humble human beings you'll ever meet. For somebody who won 2 Cy Youngs, as I said, one of the greatest pitchers in baseball, he would walk in a room as if he was just anybody.
Mayday calls were made to air traffic controllers before he crashed. Halladay was 40 years old. In a short amount of years, Halladay made a major impact on kids across our area. Nightside reporter Sarah Rosario is live near where the plane went down. And Sarah, he was not just a coach, he was also a mentor.
Yeah, that's right, Catalina. We are here along a bay that leads right into the Gulf of Mexico, where that plane went down earlier today. And when we talk about Roy's contributions to this community, he was a volunteer baseball coach on 2 of the baseball teams that his sons played on. Earlier tonight, I spoke to a high school player on one of those teams, and he tells me that he was on the same plane as Roy, the one that went down just 3 days ago.
It's so surreal right now to think that this happened.
Matthew Nelson, a senior at Calvary Christian High School, found out on Twitter. A tweet from the Pasco County Sheriff's Office confirming total heartbreak. His friend's dad, a coach, a man he saw as a mentor, baseball legend Roy Halladay, killed in a plane crash, the same plane he rode in just 3 days ago.
They're like, hey, who wants to go on the plane? I was just like, I've never been on a plane. And they're just like, and his son looks at me and was like, do you want to go with him? I was like, I mean, sure. So
in excitement, Nelson posted the video and Roy retweeted the short clip, 9 seconds of a bird's eye view from the sky.
we were just flying around having fun, and he was just showing me around, just showing me how the plane works.
His friend also posted a picture of their exhilarating ride.
Next thing you know, like 3 days later, it just shows you that you don't know what life's going to throw at you.
Nelson clings to that memory and others he shared with Roy and teammates.
That was after we won our district championship.
Text messages with Roy.
Yeah, no, after we won our districts, yeah, we're happy we won, but you can see how many kids he impacted in just 1 season.
Roy's jovial spirit captured in his final post on Twitter, celebrating the recent championship of the Florida Burn, a traveling team his sons play on. We spoke with director Mike Guthrie on the phone.
The legend stuff doesn't last that long if you're not sincere when you're coaching kids, and so you know that's the effect Roy had on them. Is he was way more than just a superstar player.
You can see that picture there. That's me when I was 12 years old, standing with Roy Halladay on the field for a national anthem.
A coincidence of sorts. The baseball legend he once idolized turned out to be his coach, father figure, and friend. And while many people across the Tampa Bay area and across the nation are mourning Roy's death, that high school player I just spoke to, Matthew Nelson, he is signing on as a catcher for FSU tomorrow. A huge day for him tomorrow, and a huge testament to his talent, but also a huge testament to the caliber that these teens are trained at, all hoping to one day walk in Roy Halladay's shoes. We're reporting live in Pasco County tonight. Sarah Rosario, back to you.
Calvary Christian High School will honor Halladay tomorrow morning at a special assembly. Halladay joined their baseball coaching staff last season and helped the team become state champions. Like Sarah mentioned, his son is a junior there. Tomorrow, the school is also bringing in grief counselors and pastors to help students deal with this, of course, this sudden loss. We'll have a crew from the Brightside team starting there tomorrow at 5 in the morning. And Alex, you know, we talked to many people tonight on Facebook Live about what this man meant to this community, meant to baseball, and it was overwhelming to see the thoughts and prayers people sent to his family.
Yeah, the loss was so much greater than just a baseball player specifically. This was a loss of a great man at home, at work, and in his community. He was truly an inspiration, and you all were reflecting on that in our Facebook Live. So I just want to show you a few of those comments. First, James told us he watched him as a Blue Jay. He was a lights out pitcher and a great human being. Love to his family. I'm from Canada. It's a sad day here. He was a legend. Michelle said he was a real class act. They say that he would help anybody on the team and would always be the first to arrive for practice and training. Linda posted quite simply, such a shame. And our Tampa Bay Rays tweeted a statement of their own. The Rays are shocked and saddened to learn of the passing of Roy Halladay. Baseball has lost one of its fiercest competitors. Roy called the Tampa Bay area home and has long been admired and respected for his work in the community. We offer our deepest condolences to the Halladay family.
As do we all. Halladay was revered off the field, as Alex was mentioning, and respected as one of the greats on it.
There was a decade, Katie, of dominance where Halladay was by far the best pitcher in the game. He was unbelievable, and his resume is just absolutely gaudy. I mean, here's just a few of the highlights, and I just had to put it on one page here, but 8-time All-Star, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, one of only 6 pitchers to win the Cy Young in both leagues. By the way, just to show you, played for the Phillies and for the Blue Jays. He was the MLB wins leader in 03 and 2010. He is eligible and will get into the Hall of Fame in 2019, mark my words. Now, this might have been, absolutely, and this might have been, what you're seeing right here, the pinnacle of his career, the NLDS in 2010. That's when he threw just the second no-hitter in postseason baseball history. And that actually came just 5 months after a perfect game. He might have only won 203 games in his career, but there's no doubt his legacy was cemented in Toronto and validated during his first 2 years in Philadelphia. Rays manager Kevin Cash actually caught Roy Halladay for 2 seasons when they were teammates in Toronto, crushed by the news. Part of his statement read, "People saw on TV how he dominated on days he pitched, but it was extremely inspiring for a young player to see his work ethic on the 4 days in between. I feel very fortunate to have known Roy. The Cash family is deeply saddened for his wife, Brandy, and their kids." Katie, absolutely devastating. As Kevin mentioned there, he leaves behind a loving wife and 2 kids, one of which, as we mentioned, is at Calvary Christian High School. I cannot fathom what they're feeling right now.
No, a huge loss to them and to their entire community. And, you know, to have a 16-year career in baseball as a pitcher is an extraordinary thing.
Amazing.
But to be a fantastic guy on top of it, double winner.
Family man.
Yeah.
And he will never be soon forgotten.
Rest in peace.
Roy Halladay, rest in peace.
Halladay's plane, was brand new, a 2018 Icon A5. He was a big fan of the company. 10 Investigates Jennifer Titus did some digging into Icon and the plane.
There's video of Halladay and his wife testing out the plane on Icon's website. In the same release, they tout all of the improvements made to the model. The Icon A5 is an amphibious plane that lands on both land and water. It costs around $200,000, but the company told me a year ago it wasn't going to be available until 2020. And there is already a wait list. We know that Halladay had his delivered a few weeks back, and I have also learned this isn't the first time the Icon A5 has been in a crash. In May, this type of plane crashed in California, killing the company's lead aeronautical engineer and his colleague. It came to a conclusion that the cause of the crash was pilot error. But if you remember, 10 Investigates told you a year ago how the FAA generally rules every small plane crash pilot error because they don't have the resources to investigate every small plane crash thoroughly. Also, the only East Coast training center for this plane is right here in Tampa on Davis Islands. Jennifer Titus, 10 Investigates.
Icon released a statement tonight saying, in part, we have gotten to know Roy and his family in recent months, and he was a great advocate and friend of ours. Icon will do everything it can to support the accident investigation going forward. And as that investigation continues, we, of course, will keep you updated. You can find the latest information on our website, WTSP.com, and the free 10 News app.
Mayor Rick Kreisman is going to stay in office after besting former Mayor Rick Baker in the race for St. Pete mayor. Here's another look at the results for you. 52% of the vote for Kreisman, 48% for Baker. You can also find the results for other local races and referendums at the bottom of your screen on the crawl there. Now let's get right to Nightside reporter Eric Glasser, who is live at Nova 535 in St. Pete, where Kreisman's camp watched the results come in. Eric, we saw the cheering begin at around 7:30 tonight.
Yeah, it sure did. They were very happy with the results, obviously. You think back to the primary election when there were just 70 votes separating these two candidates. Tonight, a much larger margin of victory for Mayor Rick Kreisman, 2,191 votes. That was more than enough to avoid any sort of an automatic recount and more than enough to give Rick Kreisman 4 more years to push forward with his progressive agenda for this city. Kreisman entered the room to cheers and chants. He quickly thanked his family and supporters and started to lay out his plan. 4 more years of inclusiveness, clean energy, and finance reform, he said. He also said he was grateful to be given a chance to see some of the major projects initiated during his first term come to fruition, like the St. Pete Pier and a new police headquarters. This was one of the nastiest, most partisan, and the most expensive mayoral race in St. Pete history. So I asked Mayor Kreisman, what would he say to the 48.36% of the people out there who did not vote for him?
This city needs to come together, you know, and we all want the same thing. We want a great city. We want a livable community, and there's no reason we can't have that.
You know, interesting turnout tonight. A couple of the precincts in the northern part of the city that Baker was predicted to do very well in actually ended up going to Rick Kreisman. Speaking of Rick Baker, I asked the mayor what he thought about the future between the two of these. Again, a very nasty race. He said that when the dust settles, he hopes that he will be able to work with the former mayor, saying they both have St. Pete's best interests at heart. Live in St. Petersburg, Eric Lasser, 10 News.
Eric, thank you. Nightside reporter Bo Zimmer live just a few miles away at 400 Beach. That's where Rick Baker's campaign was hoping for a better outcome tonight.
Well, Katie, they knew this was going to be a close race. Unfortunately for Rick Baker supporters, Kreisman jumped out to that early lead and never gave it up. Of course, Rick Baker, who was previously St. Pete's mayor from 2001 to 2010, says he was incredibly proud of the race he ran and says ultimately St. Pete's future is very bright.
Unfortunately, we fell short tonight. And while I am saddened for the city that we love, St. Petersburg is still an incredible place with many, many wonderful and great people. And I encourage all of you to continue the work that we started 16 years ago to build a seamless city.
And David Jolly, one of the many Republicans who was out here in support of Rick Baker tonight, he says this should have been a race that was determined by issues that were going to affect St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, he believes national politics got in the way and ultimately may have determined who won this race. Live in St. Petersburg, Bo Zimmer, 10 News.
Bo, thank you. I'm here with our 10 News political expert, Dr. Lars Hafner, with some of the big takeaways from tonight. And the biggest thing is when people wake up tomorrow morning, it's continuity. There's not a lot that's going to change. St. Pete's going to still move forward with the solutions that is put forward from Mayor Kreisman for the sewage. They're going to continue to talk with the Rays. But one of the bigger things that we can look for in 2018 and 2020 is how this election is going to affect the whole region.
Well, while this was said to be a nonpartisan race, Mark, it certainly turned out to be a very partisan race. And with that in mind, Democrats were watching it very closely because the Kreisman campaign made this campaign about Trump and Baker and wanted to see how the messaging would play on the local level. So as we look at the 2018 and 2020 elections, we're going to see state and national candidates come into the St. Pete region and probably duplicate a lot of the message that the Kreisman campaign used to win the mayor race back.
Yeah, so national politics taking a huge piece of tonight as well. So the race, some deliberations are going to continue. Some of the higher ups there are celebrating tonight with the Kreisman win. But we want to show you how big sections of St. Petersburg voted and how different regions really determine the future. So let's take a look over here at the map right now. We're taking a look at St. Petersburg and how different precincts voted. You've got the blue, which is Baker. You've got the orange, which is Kreisman, who won. So Lars, when you take a look at this, what segments of the city and what populations could determine the future of Tampa Bay politics?
Well, it's real interesting because Kreisman did incrementally better throughout the entire St. Petersburg city than he did in the primary. So he picked up a few votes here and there. But where he really excelled was in the Central Avenue corridor, where the LGBT community is, and he performed very well there. He also performed well in Southeast St. Pete, where he was able to really dominate in those areas. And then he neutralized Rick Baker up in some of the more prominent Republican area, because we think maybe some of those moderate Republicans chose not to either come out and vote or to cast a vote against Trump and vote for Kreisman.
Right, and so a lot of this maybe not necessarily specific groups, but also just turnout on Election Day. So let's head over to Noah Pransky to take a look at how the Rays are going to be affected.
Well, look, the Rays said they wanted to wait until after the election to make any decisions, right? Well, now the election decision is in the book, so the next big decision is stadium in Tampa or St. Pete. And the big thing here is that the Rays may be looking to pit Tampa against St. Pete. That's maybe why they waited, right? They need to see which side will come up with the most money. So right now we got this tug of war that's shaping up, right? The election's done. What happens next? Well, with the two sides in the tug of war, the Rays needed Rick Kreisman there because Kreisman has been a big proponent of helping the Rays come up with something in St. Petersburg, much more than, frankly, Rick Baker seemed to indicate. Kreisman's willing to open the purse strings to make a new stadium happen. And as a result, that's why we saw the two teams kicking money to each of the candidates. The Rays, more than 80 grand to Kreisman. So the good news for them is he wins. What happens next? Well, maybe as soon as this week, we could hear something from the Rays. They could be talking about their next step, which is getting some money together for this thing. And of course, 10 Investigates. We've been on this for almost a decade now. We'll continue to bring you the very latest on the continuing Rays Stadium saga. Carolina, next.
Noah, another big issue you need to know tonight as viewers, when it comes to the penny for Pinellas referendum, 82% of voters were for the 1-cent sales tax. Here's what that means. The sales tax in Pinellas County will stay at 7% for another 10 years. The extra penny goes towards 136 projects throughout the county. That includes road and bridge improvements, plus upgrades to playgrounds and the Mahaffey Theater. It was first approved in 1990, and voters have to weigh in on this every 10 years. For more election results and everything you need to know about today's decisions, head to our website, WTSP.com. So, kind of warm out there for November, right, Bobby?
2 degrees off a record high temperature today. We didn't get the record, but we were 2 degrees away from it. So, yeah.
I heard a couple complaints at my polling place. People are like, wait, what? I was like,
Look,
I don't know. Talk to Bobby.
If it was cool, they'd complain about that too. I get it. It was warm. I fixed some screens on the Leid today, and I was sweating out there. And not used to that because we cooled things down. But we got up to 86 degrees out there today. 80 is the average high temperature. That record set back in 1986. You got to go back a ways. 88 degrees. So yeah, we were just a couple of degrees away from it. Of course, we didn't see any rain out there. Dry out there now, clear skies. As a matter of fact, you should be able to see a little bit of the stars out there tonight if you get away from the city lights. Now dropping down into the 60s and 70s, although Tampa's at 71. That is one of our warmer spots. Dew point, though, is in the mid-60s. That's why it's not only warm, but it's muggy. And you get a dew point that high, temperatures don't really drop below that in the morning hours. So you're going to have mid to upper 60s for tonight. That's where we are now. Land O'Lakes at 65. Carrollwood, same thing, but 71 in Bradenton and 70 in Sarasota. 66 in Lakeland and Bartow, still just under 70 degrees. Just a couple of high clouds coming down here. That is it, just to filter out some of those stars. Rain is not an issue. Fog is becoming an issue. And if you look right here, in almost weeky-watchy northward up into western parts of Hernando County. Starting to see some patches right now. Brooksville is recording some fog, and a little bit now out, east of I-75, right on the I-75 corridor out towards Wesley Chapel. I don't expect a lot of fog, but those areas, Wesley Chapel north and west, and then Lakeland south and east. It may not be as much in Lakeland itself. This is 4:30 in the morning. Let's run it out to about 7 a.m. A lot of folks getting in the car, ready to head out. You can see we do have some reduced visibilities. It won't be quite as bad as it was earlier in the week. It will be burned off by the time we get towards about 9 o'clock for most areas. But you notice this is 9 a.m. A couple spots down towards Avon Park and just along the coast up north, we'll see a little bit of that fog. So here's the forecast for tomorrow. Back up with sunshine, another warm day, 83 to about 86 degrees. Light northeast winds will turn around to the north and the northwest. Slightly cooler right here along the coast. We're talking upper 70s to near 80 for a high, but most areas right around 85. The boat forecast looks good. I mean, we've got moderate chop, but only in the afternoon. Light chop in the morning, northeast winds to the northwest around 5 to 10 knots and a little bit more in the afternoon. And the algae forecast stays in that low to medium range with ragweed, grass, and elm, the main allergens. All right, there's some cold air around there, guys. Lower 20s along the northern plains, teens at International Falls. Denver's at 29. There is some pretty decent snow in Colorado Springs falling right now. Snow in the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. Some snow in the northeast, but it's really on the back side of this. This is not a big snowmaker, but that's a cold rain for the northeast. If you're traveling tomorrow, things will be getting better. That system, when it went through Missouri, watch the leaves coming down off this tree with wind and large hail. I mean, this is incredible. This is from Bill Thompson. This is on my Facebook page, Bobby Deskin's Weather, if you'd like to go check it out. Wow, man, that fall foliage is almost gone in some areas because of that. We stay warm through Thursday, 79 to about 82 over the weekend, so slightly cooler with a little touch of a front. Better touch of that front by Monday and the Tuesday of next week. But guys, not much rain in the forecast.
Traffic in Tampa Bay can be a nightmare. We know you watch Brightside in the morning to get your traffic before you head out the door, but it can still be unpredictable. That's why we all have our favorite navigation apps. Traffic reporter Hillary Zala and Brightside reporter Sean Stryker put two popular apps to the test to help you zip around Tampa Bay.
Sean and I are right outside of our studios off of Gandy Boulevard in St. Petersburg, and we're about to head to Tyrone Square Mall.
Now, I'm going to be using the Waze app.
And I'm going to be using my trusty Apple Maps.
Both have different directions, and we're going to see which one gets us there faster.
Woo, game on.
So this is telling me to take Gandy Boulevard to 49th Street.
My map is telling me to take Gandy Boulevard basically over to 66th Street.
Not even a mile up the road, we're already hitting traffic.
One thing about Apple Maps I will say is it doesn't really show construction as well as Waze does. Oh my gosh! Sean's ahead of us right now and I can see him really concentrating. See, I don't know why it took us off the overpass and made us go on Gandy. That's a mistake. See, screw all these apps. I just need to listen to myself.
So it's having me turn on 47th Street. Hillary went straight here.
Apple Maps is telling me to go to 66th Street North.
Waze shows a slowdown where Hillary's going. So hopefully this puts us ahead.
Turn left on 47th Street North.
These roads can be really confusing in Pinellas County, but I think you just turned the wrong way.
I don't know exactly what we just did, but I feel like I avoided something.
Sean and I have parted ways.
Turn right on 38th Avenue North.
Oh, thanks for the heads up.
I have arrived.
Let the record show I arrived at 8:51.
You've been here for 8 or 9 minutes? Sean, I was driving safely.
And the winner is Waze.
I'm a Waze gal myself, so I'm happy about that. Do you have the worst commute? Well, don't forget to send us a 30-second video rant about it. We want to know. Upload it on WTSP.com/tamingyourtraffic for a chance to win a limousine ride to and from work this Friday. The deadline, by the way, to upload that is tomorrow.
Now, from your Suncoast Hyundai dealers, this is 10 Sports.
You don't know how you're going to feel in those moments, especially for somebody that's, touched my life, my teammates' lives, these fans. He's a tremendous person that is going to be missed.
Well said. That was Cole Hamels, a teammate of Roy Halladay's while they were in Philadelphia together. The baseball community understandably in shock after losing an icon and a friend. Justin Granite, Ryan Bass here with you. This news that came down today has certainly shook everybody, not just in baseball, but this entire Tampa Bay region.
And as the news broke today, you learned more about Roy Halladay and the human being that he was aside from the baseball field. But we do have so many memories of him on the baseball field because we grew up watching this guy and have some great memories of him.
Yeah, 2010 is really the one year that sticks out to me, and I know you're going to reference one of your memories then, but he faced my Miami Marlins team, and I want to show you a little bit of what he did to them back then. Now, this was As many of you will remember, the perfect game he pitched against Miami. I don't know why I was watching a May baseball game, but it was my Miami Marlins, and I'll never forget the first batter of the game, Chris Coughlin, who's actually from here in Tampa. It looked like it was ball 4, and they actually called it strike 3, and Coughlin was confused. Well, that was the only really tough thing that Halladay had to face that next day. Sat down the next 26 batters in throwing this perfect game against Miami. He was sensational that day, 11 strikeouts. And at the end of the game, I was cheering for Roy Halladay because I wanted to see history.
He's such a lovable guy, too. And for any sports fan, you just have moments that stick with you your entire life. One of them, for me, is of Roy Halladay. Later that year in the NLDS, he pitches a no-hitter, just the second all-time in postseason history against the Reds. At the time, I was working behind the scenes at ESPN. I was doing teleprompter, and I stopped prompting because the game was on. And in commercial break, one of the anchors at ESPN said to me, "What happened?" I said, "This game is about to finish," and we all huddled up, watch Roy Halladay pitch his perfect game.
He was mesmerizing, right?
Was.
The entire baseball community is certainly reacting to the news today of Roy Halladay's passing. His former teammate, Clearwater resident Ryan Howard, saying such a sad day, lost a great ball player, but an even better human being. Many prayers to Brandy, Ryan, and Braden. We will miss you, Roy. Pedro Martinez, one of the all-time greats. Can't believe it. So many times we competed against each other, and even while competing, I wanted to see you. My condolences to his family and the Rays captain, Evan Longoria. All I could say is, wow, life is short. Rest in peace, Roy Halladay. It was an honor to compete against you so many times. A bittersweet day for Longo. A tough transition here, but he was honored today with another Gold Glove at third base. Make that now 3 for Longo's trophy case. Also won it in 2009 and 2010. Interesting, though, at 32 years old, he beat out Manny Machado, one of the best defenders in the game. So big ups to Longo. He's the first Ray ever to claim 3 Gold Glove awards.
Tonight's lottery numbers are brought to you by Dimmitt Chevrolet. See for yourself what hundreds of new and used cars look like. Volume and price make the Dimmitt difference. Visit DimmittChev.com, where luck is on your side.
Taking one more look tonight at the results of one of the biggest mayoral races happening in the biggest races happening in the Bay Area. Of course, the race for mayor. Rick Kreisman will remain mayor of St. Petersburg with 52% of the vote. Former Mayor Rick Baker coming in with 48% of the vote.
So let's check in with Nightside reporter Mark Rivera with another look at the big takeaways from today.
Yeah, there are 3 big takeaways, guys, that we can talk about from Kreisman's victory. The biggest one is continuity. As you wake up tomorrow morning, not much is going to change in the city of St. Petersburg. The solutions for the sewage problem that Kreisman has laid out will move forward. Talks with the Rays will continue, and to try and keep them in St. Petersburg. But this could change the future of the 2018 Senate and governor's race and the 2020 presidential one, having Democratic leaders in many of the I-4 corridor's key cities. It could be a boon for Democrats as they expand their apparatus. Another thing, we are more partisan than ever before. National politics mattered to locals here. So expect to hear Democrats next year and 2 years after that railing against Donald Trump for an election win. Back to you guys.
And remember, you can find the results of all the local races and referendums on our website, WTSP.com, and the free 10 News app.
Yeah, a lot went on today, so it's good to go to one location, get what you need, because there was a lot to digest.
It's a big day.
Have a good
Big news day. Good night.